these small groups are not rocket science, right? It is a chance to get together with a small group. The best groups that we've seen are people when they do invite folks, but not just their friends. People that they've wanted to meet or build relationships with. We're advertising, but the best invitation will come from you as you invite folks to your small groups. And, just as we did today, we started very informally, welcoming people, making sure we knew everyone's names, share some kind of recast, and then go into the questions. There's 10 listed there, but, don't expect to get through all 10. Just, play it by ear. The one that we do want you to focus on, though, is that number 10. Make sure you do get to that 10th question, asking about, specific ideas. Because when we think about it, we're building on what we've built so far this last year as John kind of launched us in. But after you've done your questions, there is a portion we call the ask. And that's the portion that I'm talking about. And the ask, don't worry, you're not going to be asking people for specific amounts of money, but you will be asking them to join you in the discipline of pledging. So you might want to say, what is a pledge? Well, of course, a pledge is a formal part or a formal commitment made in advance of what you expect to be able to support the congregation through your time, your talents, and your treasure. It's not a contract, though. Remind people that we know that life's situations can change at a moment's notice, whether it be health, or job, or family crises. And those pledges are as adaptable as you need them to be. But it is a challenge that you set for yourself. Because we believe that God is doing something really special through what Redeemer is doing. Living out that welcome statement that we adopted at the beginning of this year. And we've seen we're continuing to make those steps to build the kind of community that is a place of welcoming and dignity for anyone who walks through our door. And so the message that you want to give to your guests is, I want to invite you. It's not about guilt. It's not about threat. I want to invite you to join me in this practice of pledging. Again, what is a pledge? We already talked about that. Why pledge? Well, first of all, it's an act of worship. From age-old times, people return to God a portion of what they have received as a sign of their thanksgiving. We remember that what we have is a gift. And when you receive a gift, what do? You say, thank you. And that, for us as people of faith, is in the form of our offerings and tithes. But it is also an act of faith. It is trusting, of course. You don't know what the world, the year ahead of you is going to do. But you make that commitment as an act of faith. I trust God is going to take care of me no matter what. Thirdly, it's also a spiritual discipline. It is the best method that we as the church over the years have devised to help our disciples grow in the discipline and the spiritual things of generosity. Generosity doesn't happen by accident. It's taught, it's nurtured, and it's grown. And making that pledge is one specific way that you can take to start that journey if you have to, or to increase that pledge proportionately and growing deeper and deeper in that relationship. I think Jesus said something about where your treasure is, your heart shall be also. It's not where your heart is where your treasure is, where your treasure is your heart. Where we give, our heart necessarily comes because we give to things that we find meaningful. One of the things that we want you to do is before your gathering, reflect personally. Why do you? Why have you adopted this? And share that. Important. Why is it important to pledge? For me, it's actually, I can let Cindy take care of it. But for us, it is kind of that intentional setting of priorities. If we don't do that ahead of time, what happens is we get to the end and whatever's left over. Well, God is worth more than what's just left over. God deserves our best. And then, of course, it's also practically for the church side to help us plan for the future so that we can do so wisely as we continue to grow this ministry. So here's my personal story. Why am I excited to pledge this year? Well, it starts with how far we've come. You've heard a little bit John introduce this. Remember 1 year ago, John made that passionate plea and that passionate challenge to this congregation to look outward and to go all in, that was his words, going all in investing in our ministries of outreach and evangelism. Knowing that so many people are moving into this community, and also noticing what are the main messages going on in our culture right now. And we have vastly a life-saving message. His specific pledge, I went back and watched the video. It's still available. He said, by this time next year, we will have 25 new pledgers. Well, we have over 30. Check that one. Then we would have a 10% increase in our giving. Well, giving is up after the end of the summer about 7%, but over $60,000 more than last year. Say thank you to yourself. And of course, what we would call a new pastor for evangelism and outreach. Let's say thank you. And we want to build on the momentum of Q. So we're going to ask people to consider making a pledge if they have not done so before, or increase their pledge if they can, if they are already adopting that. But for me, I think the need is greater than ever. This year has been a really hard year. For me, I feel that our freedom of speech is seriously under attack. As I hear books being banned, as I hear my own alma mater being attacked, accused of anti-Semitism, which is really ironic for me because at Harvard Divinity School I studied the rabbi. I studied, the Talmud of the rabbi. I just, it's anti-academic, anti-education, anti-science, and this pressure to group speak. Today I had the chance to teach our confirmation people about the book of Genesis. Genesis in 20 minutes. There you go. But I started with this idea of science versus religion. The Genesis, and I told them that's a name of controversy. Science is very telling us how, less so on why. More on the why do we encourage it? What's it used for? What is God? And I hope out of that, our confirmation program in particular, our kids are encouraged to ask questions. That our kids are encouraged to challenge the Lord. What does this mean? Also, we know that Christianity in general is in danger of being co-opted by a nationalistic message that is anti-gospel. As we heard today in today's sermon, I would go as far as to say it's right. Our message of radical welcome is desperately needed to be heard. Our kids need to hear it. Our kids need to hear an alternate message than what they may be receiving on the show. And I think there are families in this church that are intentionally coming to Redeemer because it's a multicultural experience, because it is a welcoming experience, because it is a just experience. And they want their kids to receive that message. And also, our community needs it more than ever. Every week I'm here down in the food ministry on Fridays and get to know a lot of the pressure and the anxiety that our neighbors are living is just being ratcheted up. They're hearing stories of certain municipalities making it illegal to be homeless or to gather, or even some politicians saying that they should be doing that. This is scandalous. And our people are hearing this. Imagine what it means for them to come into a place of dignity, to be welcome, to be loved, and to be nurtured. There is no more important time for Redeemer to be redeemed than it is today. A few weeks ago, or I guess it was just last week, I preached a sermon on Holy Cross Day about the theology of the cross. And I can't tell you the amount of positive feedback. One of our former church council presidents said it was one of the top 5 Pastor Mark sermons I've ever preached. I don't think it was the quality of the preaching per se, but it's this message. That in the cross we see that God's first movement towards the world is not condemnation. For God so sent his Son, redeemed together. It's not vengeance, it's not fear. God's very first move towards creation, towards us, is grace and his love. That's why we're here. We cannot, we dare not keep this a secret. So how do you pledge? During the month of October, every member Commitment Sunday will be Reformation Sunday, as is our tradition, October 26th, but people can always submit their pledge to the giving page on the website or send an email our financial secretary, right? Financial operations, right? So what we want you to do is, again, invite people to join us on this journey. Highlight how far we've come, and where we're going, and how essential and important we should be. Thank you to the partners. Here, before you leave, there are packets here that kind of summarize the small group agenda. We have basically what we've gone through today, including the 10 questions that you can use. You can also take out this separate publications. We also want to hear when you have your meeting, particularly when you go through some, what are the ideas? What are the inspirations for reaching